Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of February, 2020. 2020. Boy, it's hard to believe, isn't it? Time just keeps going on and going on. Of course, that's what we have to expect. Welcome as you come in. I have not got a planned program this morning per se. I think it's a time when I'm just going to address kind of what comes to mind. I do have a few notes, but it's not like it normally is, where I have a set thing that or an idea that I want. Other than to say that, as the title of this suggests, nothing is as it appears. And that is across the board. I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're an anarchist, a demi-archist, a Trump supporter, a Hillary supporter, a Bernie supporter. It doesn't matter. Nothing can be believed on its face. And as I've said for a long time, it used to be that you could believe half of what you see, half of what you hear, none of what you see, and now you can't believe anything you see or hear, as you know. There's just too much here going on. So what do we end up doing in a situation like this? By the way, just so I know, let me make sure that this is 5 by 5 if you all don't mind. The question is, again, as I've had so many times in the past, why do I even bother to keep doing this? Because it's the same old dribble all the time, no matter what we do. Great, thank you for letting me know that the sound's okay. I appreciate that. Yet at the same time, I see these things happening, and I'm on Twitter and I'm getting information and I'm passing it along, and it just seems to do so little good in the long run. It probably is time for us all to just back away from everything that's going on, because we're not going to change it, apparently, not unless you do something really drastic, and of course then they'll call you a criminal. And I don't mean killing people, but I mean, like they did in Virginia with the gun rally. Caramel cream, good morning. It's like I've said all along, it just appears to me that nobody really is listening. And this morning I get up, and Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice put up a video last night. I suggest you go see it. And it's about Assange and his Trump's, and I'm going to say it this way, Trump's DOJ is demanding 175 years for Assange. I'm not even going to comment any more on it than that. I want you to go listen to Nancy Morgan Hart's Headlines with a Voice, the video she put up that says Assange, they're looking at 175 years. Trump cannot be, and I know all the arguments, okay? Oh, he can't pick up every casualty. He can't take care of everybody. You don't take care of Assange, and you're not going to take care of anybody. And that goes for, Stone, they twisted things around to say that he lied, when in fact, all they did is just catch him in a spot where his semantics were probably not the way they should have been. General Flynn, the fact that they used the information on him without giving him his Miranda rights, the violations of the basics in the Flynn case are mind-staggering. And there has to be some question in Judge Sullivan's mind that it should go forward, or that it shouldn't. And Trump has convinced everybody, because of the attacks on him, that he's impotent. I have a question. Considering the fact that Trump plays so impotent in the United States, why is it that so much of the rest of the world is so anxious to receive him? In Europe, they were calling him the Emperor God. Now in India, you're seeing what's happening there. It's true, there's an old statement that a prophet is not without honor but in his own country. But when I look at Trump's track record and I'm honest about it, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed one little bit. Oh, Roy, could you do any better? And as I've said so many times, I didn't ask for the job and I didn't make the claims that he made. Oh, he didn't know what he was getting into. Uh-huh. If I sound a little bitter this morning, it's because I see the injustices coming out of Trump's administration that are just unbelievable. The IRS going out and harassing people now. Oh, these rich people who make $100,000 a year, they need to file their taxes and pay their taxes. Oh, really? Ladies and gentlemen, as I've said, and as some other people have said, we're on our own. Rush Limbaugh is saying, oh, the coronavirus is nothing to worry about. Who's he covering for? I'm just going to flat out ask it. He says the coronavirus is nothing more than a cold virus. I know that. Rhinitis is another form of a cold virus. I think that's how you say it. Rhinitis, coronavirus. Yes, they're forms of colds. Yes, that's true. But that doesn't mean they can't be weaponized. And this one has been, obviously. So, yeah, it might be a common cold base, but the things that have been attached to it. Rush kind of admitted that it was being used as a bioweapon. But I think he's trying to be on the same page as Trump, because Trump's saying, oh, we've got it under control. We've got it under control. No, he doesn't. At the very least, as people like Mike Cernovich has pointed out, Mark Pantano, Headlines with a Voice, etc., the supply lines in the world are falling apart, and they have been for some time based on some other things that have been going on. But now this. And other people are saying, oh, it's 5G poisoning. That's what's really doing it. It's what's activating this virus, or it's what's really, whatever. The point is something's happening in the world, and it's serious. And Trump's brushing it off as if it's not a big deal. Oh, he has to prevent panic and all this. You know what? It's like I said to him when I tweeted him the other day. The American people can handle it. Tell them what they're facing. Tell them that they need to store up some storables in case they have to stay inside, talk to their work, make arrangements, what the hell ever. But just sitting there and saying everything's okay. Yeah, right. And there's been information coming out on the CDC that, is questionable and then, somewhat alarming. And certainly what's happening in Italy, in Iran, in South Korea. I don't think all those places have 5G, so that's not the only excuse. Trump smiles and smiles and smiles. Well, that's nice. And those that have spoken the truth, even helping him to get elected, and probably not, that wasn't even their objective, some of them, certainly not Assange's objective, are rotting because of the American injustice system. This DOJ is despicable. Oh, it takes time to clean it up, Roy. Don't you see they're doing that? They're doing it. I'm going to tell you something right now. I want to know how big of a personal security team Barr has. I want to know how large of a security team John Durham has. I want to know if they have food tasters. I want to know if they travel in armored vehicles. I want to know if people who come see them that are not, or even those that are known, are checked out extensively before they meet them. I want to know why Durham and Barr traveled overseas. Was it really to get information on the Spygate thing, on the other nations, and what they would cooperate? Or was it, as I have intimated, as I have cogitated, that it was to sew up loose ends, to protect nations that supposedly, and I think they did, engaged themselves with the CIA and the FBI in this horrendous thing that's happened? And why, and this is the big question, and why would Trump be allowing his DOJ to do the things they're doing, knowing what's happened to him? If, in fact, this all wasn't just a damn big theatrical play. Because right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're holding the ball, and it's a lead ball. They've given us so much crap that we can't take a shot in the basket. We're weighed down. So, all you people that want to stroke Barr and Durham and Trump and say, you can't fix 30 years of problems or 60 years of problems in one term. You know what? It's like Lionel says, I want to see at least one person in handcuffs. And that isn't happening. And you know what? I think this entire coronavirus thing is the big hammer that is going to save the deep state. And I think Trump has agreed to it. Because as they're saying, it's going to allow Xi Jinping to excuse his actions in China and the falling apart of the economy there, and also corral and kill the demonstrators in Hong Kong and throughout China. Send a bioweapon into Taiwan and Japan. All of this to stir up, to take attention away from the promises that were made that we are going to return to a constitutional republic. And that's really what Trump was advertising. And it has gone further away from it with his violations and his plans that infringe and destroy the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I can't give him a pass. And my friend in California, my Republican insider, again, he's probably pulling his hair out right now, saying, Roy, you can't go this far. You can't go this far. I had a lady contact me last night. Back, what was it, a year ago now? Trump made an agreement with India that we would have their high-tech workers here, which misplaces American workers. A lot of these college kids that are having these huge, most college kids these days are taking basket weave courses of one sort or another. But those who are in the sciences and engineering, computer science, things like that, they're not going to be able to get jobs. I thought Trump was America. Well, this lady wrote me last night, and she's right, after I thought about it. If Trump's design was to take down China, okay, all right. Who's going to replace China? What nation can replace China? What nation has the ability to do that? Well, I'm not sure that India does, but it has the people, no doubt. And it could become, I'm not sure it could replace China, but it could, under the right circumstances, give China a run for its money. So if the main objective is to take China out, I have no qualms with that. As I've told you for a long time now, one of the weapons that the New World Order, for lack of a better term, the Luciferians, and Lionel doesn't like those terms. Well, tough luck, Lionel. People understand what you're saying when you use those terms, okay? Whether or not it's totally accurate really doesn't matter. It's those who support liberty and those who don't. That's a pretty well, I could put it that way, but it just doesn't have the impact. So they've been planning on using China to attack the United States surreptitiously, using espionage, using secret maneuvers, all those types of things, since the middle 1800s. That was what they were going to use. They even talked about those Chinese being brought and taking over the West Coast. Not necessarily even an invasion, other than the way we've seen it happen economically. So Trump must be what I'm saying is that Trump must be in another secret society. Some people would say the Jesuits. Some people would say, the Israeli secret societies, the Mossad, whatever. The point is that, as I mentioned many, many months ago, maybe even years ago, Trump is nothing more than the leader of the opposing competition. Now, politically, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when the casualties of that are people like Assange, and when the casualties are the First, Second, and Fourth Amendment, I have a problem with it. Okay. A lot of people are probably wanting me to address what I put out a few days ago. And as I said, I was considering doing an extensive, in-depth class on the subject. And it wouldn't be a live stream. It would be recorded, maybe with a follow-up live stream for questions and answers. But I just don't know that it's worth it at this point. The implications in the Semitic languages, the similarities and the differences in, say, Hebrew and Arabic, just as an example, would require me to go into such depth for you to understand why I said what I said. Plus the esoteric, which is definitely still in the world. If you don't know anything about Aleister Crowley and 777, etc., then you don't know much about the esoteric and how dangerous it is, because he actually influenced Hitler. And he probably influenced a lot of other people. People with no understanding saying that Kabbalah itself is black magic and it's evil and it's from Satan and all this baloney. Yeah, anything good can be used as a weapon. But my point is that I thought, I could sit up there and I could do all this. I could make this grand effort. And really, what would it accomplish? Well, let me say this. Historically, we can pretty well prove that there was an Israelite, primarily the southern kingdom, after the split between northern Israel and the Jews in the south. They weren't called Jews, but the house of Judah. So you had Judah in the south and you had Israel in the north, if you know even what I'm talking about. In other words, the kingdom of Israel split in the time of Solomon, really, over this nonsense of the temple that they were doing. And I'm not going to explain why I say that. But at any rate, the 10 kingdoms to the north went their separate ways, and they had separate kings and all that. And then you had Judah in the south. Well, a couple of these kings, Hezekiah and Josiah, his son, made it their job to eradicate all of the high places. Now, what is this thing about the high places? It's where the worshipers, especially in the northern kingdom, had been for some time. And then it started to come into Judah, worshiping some of the Canaanite gods and some of the other Middle Eastern gods. And they would build these altars and these worship areas in high places. Heights. Now, I'm not saying the Israelites didn't do the same thing, okay? But it's what's being done there that is the real issue. And again, it gets too complicated for me to get into any big discussion of it, and I just don't feel like it. But King Hezekiah and King Josiah destroyed those places. The weird thing is that if Josiah was doing what God really wanted him to, why was Pharaoh successful in killing him? And I don't know if you know the story, but apparently from what we can find out, Pharaoh himself shot the arrow that killed King Josiah. So he wasn't being protected for having done all this great work, and purging, the country of these false worshipers. Notice I'm saying this somewhat tongue-in-cheek. I'm not saying they were false worshipers, but that was what Hezekiah and Josiah were doing. Now, just so you know, if a soldier, an Egyptian soldier, fired the arrow that killed Josiah, the Pharaoh would still, get credit for it. So who knows exactly what happened. But my point is that these high places were used by people who worship Baal, however you want to say it. All those false gods. So what is going on with this sign? The Golan Heights has apparently been given to Israel. It wasn't Trump's to give. It wasn't. The new king. This is getting troublesome. Because despite all the stroking and excuse making and all that, Trump is not following the good side of the biblical prophecy. I'm sorry, he's just not. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he's kowtowing to something here that's very suspicious to me. So, I was going to put this on the screen so you could see it, but I think I'll just show it on my phone here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I don't know if you will. Most of you have probably seen this. So what they did was they named this place. I'm going to put this up for those of you who didn't see it so you can see what I'm talking about. This was... Let's see how this works. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so this is the place now called Trump Heights, and that's how you say the Heights is the Demot there. You read Hebrew from left, or from right to left rather. And so you see the Dalet, the Mem, and the Tav there, which signifies heights, high places. Okay. And then you see that funny thing on the right there, on the far left rather, and that is a tet, a resh, an aleph, a mem, and a pei. Those are the letters in Hebrew. Now, what's odd about this is why did they use the letter tet, which is the number 9, which I'm just going to go right to the point here. It's a serpent. Okay, it's a serpent. Now, it has some other connotations, yes, but it is a serpent. Now, Moses had a serpent, remember, on his pole, right, that everybody was to look at after they were bitten by the poisonous serpents. Remember that? You remember that? The serpent can be good or bad, all right, and it has some other connotations. But I think this is significant, that whoever decided to spell Trump's name like this in Hebrew was sending a message. Because the other letter that they could have used is the one that's at the end of Demot there, the Tav. This one right here. See if I can point to this and let you see it. This is really hard to do backwards. This one right here could be used instead of that tet. Okay, same sound. But the other troubling thing, now the other letters you're kind of stuck with. The resh, which is the second letter in Trump, this letter right here. Resh, you're kind of stuck with the R sound. I'm going to talk about this aleph in a minute. You're kind of stuck with the mem, because that's the M sound, and the pei is the P sound. It is, okay? So you're kind of stuck with the resh, the mem, and the pei. But you're not stuck with the tet and the aleph. As a matter of fact, you don't even need the aleph. This thing is troubling me. It's troubling me a great deal. And maybe I shouldn't have made a big deal about it, but I see all these other things that are happening. King Josiah and King Hezekiah went to destroy the high places of worship of the false gods. Now Trump is named. His name is on one of those high places that were used by the false gods. Do you get this picture? Could it be that Trump has conquered this and has returned it to the great, wonderful, holy people of Israel? I had somebody contact me the other day, a very knowledgeable lady, and she'll know who she is if she's watching today. I have a lot of respect for her. I haven't actually followed her back on Twitter, and I won't explain why, other than to say that she's very defensive of Israel and Jews. Look, if anybody who's followed me for any length of time knows that I spent my whole life studying Judeo-Christian philosophy and spiritual systems. I looked at all the others, but that's the one I chose. I have a lot of respect for what the ancient Israelites did. Okay? I have nothing against Jews per se. But you have to understand that after the destruction of the Second Temple, actually with what started happening at the beginning of the first century, once the Maccabees were thrown out and the Herods, the Herodian Edomites, took over under Rome's help, and this history goes back. I mean, the Greeks were there, the Seleucids, and it's just a mess. But when that happened, especially when the Herodians took over the throne from the Maccabees, and they were Edomites, they weren't of the bloodline that could get the throne of Israel. This was a Roman move, and whether you're spiritual, whether you're religious or not, I'm talking history now. Okay, just bare knuckled history. The fact of the matter is that things were never the same. And if Jesus was anything, he was known as, in Josephus, there's a teacher that's talked about, and I've mentioned this before. His actual name isn't given, but he's called the Taheb. Taheb, it means the restorer. And if anything, Jesus said that he had come to restore the house of Israel, right? So this character in Josephus is actually probably the real one. And there's some other things that go along with Qumran and with the Dead Sea Scrolls that kind of lend a lot of credence to that. But at any rate, the bottom line is that some basic, really bad things happened. And the Jewish religion was became subservient to the Romanized version that the Romans permitted. And that all happened at the Council of Yavne. The Talmud was written later, after all this happened. Okay, and it had a lot of these other things going on in there that were actually foreign to Israel, ancient Israelite thought, especially Hebraic thought. But at any rate, it became very Romanized, very, very much a Greek, almost a lot of Greek ideas into it. And that's why I say this is so much more complicated, and I'm actually spending more time on it than I planned on. But this lady said, the Jews are always taking it, they're always getting blamed for things, and that's not the case. Look, and I just want to say this, there are secret societies, and this thing spans many ethnicities, many nationalities, and indeed many races. So just calling that section of the Jews out that are doing these horrible things is not being anti-Semitic or throwing all Semites under the bus. Because there are more Semites than just Jews. The Arabs themselves are Semites. If you don't like calling the Jews out for what they have done and with what Trump's helping them to do, and he is, AIPAC here in the United States, and I'm not anti-Jewish, okay, but now everything's so muddied up, you can't even call a wrongdoing if it's done by a Jew. You get jumped on. Well, the ancient prophets had no problem with calling what you would know as the Jews out. They had no problem with that at all. Today they'd be called anti-Semitic. It's just unbelievable to me. So, this lady continued on, and I had made a statement in this video the other day, and I talked about the name, what it means, of Barack Obama. I talked about that. And she became a little bit disconcerted over that and said, no, Barack means lightning. That was one of the things she came back with. And that's not necessarily wrong. It's not. But you have to understand the difference between and the importance of the consonants that are used in words and the vowels that can be inserted or changed. Indeed, I talked about how the name Cyrus, Koresh, had been changed in Isaiah 2 times, the only place it ever was. It was spelled differently there than it was anywhere else in the Old Testament. Only 2 places. Why? Because the prophet was trying to tell you something. It would not make sense that Barack Obama would be talking about lightning. Why? Because lightning has the connotation of Lucifer. And I'm using that name because most people wouldn't know the other one that his actual name was. Lucifer was cast down like lightning from the heavens. There's no way that they are going to reveal, if Barack Obama was in fact a satanic individual, and I believe he is, there's no way they're going to name him lightning, okay? There's just no way. Now, there's a difference between the Arabic and the Hebrew. There's a difference, as I've shown you, and I said before, a difference between the biblical Hebrew and modern Hebrew. Okay? But I just want to talk, this is all I'm going to say about the Barak name, okay? If you take just the sounds of the letters, the phonetic sounds, that's what's important because that gives you the basic functions. Now, in Hebrew, blessed is spelled Beit Resh Kaf. Kaf being the cupped hand. Like when you put your hand on somebody's head blessing them, you cup your hand over them, or you receive a blessing. Kaf. So it's Beit Resh Kaf. Lightning in Hebrew is Beit Resh Kof. It's the back of the head. It's like the neck. It's like a shepherd's crook. Lightning. The phonetics are very similar, but the actual letters, the consonants, are what's important, and of course the vowels. I'm not going to get into it any deeper than that. I think that my rendition of what Barack Obama's name was correct. Is correct. Okay? They're not going to say he's the one that was cast down like lightning from the from the heavens. No, they're not going to give him that connotation. I don't believe that. Short rendition on responding to her on that issue. Now, why do I bring all of this up? And then I'll go to chat. We knew that when the deep state, when the people started awakening to all of this, Trump has acted, in my estimation, as I've said from the beginning, has acted more as a placebo to keep the conservative constitutionalists, Christians, believing that change was imminent so that they would not act. Actually, what happened in Virginia was amazing. And we could say, well, Trump needs the people to do something. Yeah, they do, but they need the cover of a good leader. And he didn't give it to them there. I'm sorry, he didn't. As a matter of fact, his DOJ and FBI and ATF were there to spy on good Americans who were standing up for their rights. And again, I said, yes, there were going to be criminals in an organization like that, in a meeting like that. There always are, because they're attracted to that. And you need to keep track of those people. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is not why they were there. The FBI, the DOJ, the ATF. They were there to spy on you good Americans because you are a threat to the deep state and to Donald Trump's deep state. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. Why did he let them do that? Why is he continuing with the situation with the Bundys? These do not make any sense. Why? As Headlines with a Voice points out, is he still going after Assange, allowing that to happen? All he would have to say, he can't say don't do it because the deep state will be on him and the Congress will be on him. And they already are. At least that's what they pretend. If they're even actually doing it, so what? It's like Kurt Schlichter said, the colonel. He said, when you're ambushed, your only option for surviving is attacking the ambush. That's the only way you can win. And even that's tricky, but that's the only way. And that's not what Trump is doing. I'm sorry. Oh, he's being wise as a serpent. See, he's serpent, he's being wise. He's, figuring this out. He's got all these plans. All right. I keep hitting the table. Sorry. I don't buy it. Okay? I don't buy it. I think he's in the process of replacing you. Look at the changes in immigration. Look what he did with Planned Parenthood. Signed a bill with $500 million to Planned Parenthood. Kill off Americans and bring in the immigrants. Does this make any sense? Convince especially white people not to have babies. You have to judge a tree by its fruits, ladies and gentlemen, and the smiles and the promises don't mean anything to me. Only what a man does defines him. That's a line from Batman. It's not what's inside of me, but what I do that defines me. That's a good statement, and that's very true. Because your best intentions, if you don't try to do them, aren't worth much. And I don't see, in reality, many good intentions on Trump anymore. I just don't. So, do I continue on, ladies and gentlemen? Do I bother to do this anymore? Maybe I'd like to do my nightcap and just have a variety show and just, bring in bartenders and prostitutes and, people that are down in the dirty parts of society that are just trying to survive, and let's talk to them and see what they feel about things. Because frankly, I'm a little sick and tired of the prudish people that, want to make excuses for things rather than getting serious about things getting done. Was I perfect? No, I've never said that I was perfect, am perfect, or will ever be perfect. But again, I didn't ask for the job. It seems like my job has always been to criticize the powerful, and so that's just the way it's been. I guess it's easier when you don't have. I often wonder if I were a billionaire, would I be into being as critical of these people as I am? I don't know. I do know that my history has shown that, when I stuck up for myself, that was probably kind of selfish in some regards. But I had to stick up for the American people, the world, the people of the world. Really, I had to be a voice there. I guess to prove to myself, as I've said, pay back some karma, but also to say, you'll do this for somebody else too. It wasn't just that you do it for you. If we keep being cheerleaders, and I saw the pom-poms for Trump, we're never going to get anything really done. Oh, he'll do it all in a second term, Roy. He'll do it all in a second term. This coronavirus, if he's using it to his advantage to make excuses for the stock market falling, as it fell, 1,000 points yesterday? Wow. All because the supply chains are breaking down. That shows how bad, world government is, as many people have pointed out, for sure. And maybe getting India to replace China. Do you know how many years that's going to take to get up to speed on that? Trump was right to try to bring back manufacturing to the United States. Yeah, that's true. I agree. We're energy independent, Roy. Well, we could have done that 30, 40, even 50 years ago. We could have. Yeah. Cui bono? And for what reason? You know what that means, right? Who profits? Who's it good for? So let's see what you all have to say. I'll move to the chat. Try not to avoid you this time. You can see why, I was concerned with this sign. I'm going to say it again. Whoever put those letters in there and at that place were telling us, I don't think, a good thing. I think they were telling us the reality of the matter, because they could have spelled it differently. Now, I don't think that was an accident, an oversight. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, it's alarming. Yeah, tinfoil hat, they're saying the Russians are at it again. Yeah, and the American people, especially the left. See, that's what I mean. It's good to expose the deep state. I appreciate Trump having done this. But what are the consequences for the deep state? What are they? Where are the consequences? Oh, it's coming, Roy. It's coming. There's no evidence. There's a grand jury that's been put together by Durham. There are people who know that have said that. And again, I'd like to know if these two characters, Barr and Durham, have a security detail, because I'll tell you what, they're either cooperating with the deep state or they'd be dead. Okay? That's what the truth of the matter is. So the big Russia thing is happening again. Oh yeah, I know. But what does this really do? It's giving cover for Trump not acting appropriately. Oh, on the economy, on trying to make the Anglo-American economy the greatest in the world. Yeah, but that sounds good for America, but where does it put our morals? See what I mean? I don't think we can be a part of this anymore. I think we got to withdraw. And a lot of people have been saying that, Ryan, you can't fix the system. No, it's all designed. You just got to back away. There's only one God. Oh, I know that. That's why the Judges period in the Old Testament was so cool. But then the people got dumb and they said, oh, we want a king like everybody else has. God's hiding his face. I don't see this coming out. Alex Jones has a lot of hope that I think people are waking up. I think a lot of people are seeing, but this cult of personality around Trump is very troubling, and the fight over who he is. The Democrats hate him because of who he is. That's the statement, but it's really supposedly because he stands with us. Do you see that? That's really the problem. He says he stands with us, and yet his actions don't show that. I'm sorry, they don't. Okay. Dave Fisher, pull kids out of public schools and stop voting for their school levies. Yeah, I know. See, all these things. And of course, then they want to come after you with their guns and all that, right? A new California, that's up to the Californians, zebra to you. I don't know how close. I have friends, very good friends in California. Some of them would like this to happen, but the reality is, probably won't. And the counties in Virginia that want to uphold the Second Amendment, going over to West Virginia or whatever, those are things that cause bloody wars. They're not just political moves. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, you're right. The Phoenician merchants and the black Venetians, yeah, well, they were selling things to both sides. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we've still got them. They live, we sleep. Roy finally gets it. There are no. They live, we sleep. I have known this for. Look, because, and I said it before, when Trump does something good, I'll give him an accolade. When he does something stupid, I'm going to jump on him. I'm not stupid enough, and I've said it from the beginning, I don't see his rhetoric matching what's happening on the ground. So don't tell me I'm getting it. I'm just getting it. We were trying to work through with what we have. This is really why I don't want to do this anymore. It's about time for me to go in the cabin and just wait this thing out, because everybody's going to destroy each other. That's the way this is going at this point. Actually, the southern tribes were Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. The priest class was there too. So the actual pure division of 10 northern tribes and 2 southern tribes isn't exactly right. And there were actually members of the northern tribes. There were some of them that didn't leave when the Assyrians came and took them north. A lot of them remained in the area, and that was some of the difficulties that were happening in the first century BCE and the first century CE. But you're not totally wrong, little Sprout 43. Yeah, Edomites, right? G Spike. That's what Herod was an Edomite, and Israel was told to not again religiously, political thing. That's a whole other deal, historically. But they were told not to be with Edom. Edom could convert, but it had to be after the conversion. It would take 3 generations for them to be brought in. They could be. But that's not what happened with the Herodians. The Herodians were forced to convert by a Maccabean king, John Hyrcanus. So being forced to convert is not a conversion. It didn't work. Yeah, I know, David Kraft. I've heard this argument before that 5G might be the killer, not the virus. I'm not saying that once you get a virus, if you're in an area where 5G is, that it couldn't alter the virus, because it does alter DNA. We know that, right? But this thing is being carried to other places where there's not 5G. Okay, 5G could aggravate it, but if you listen to Mike Adams, for instance, if you listen to Professor Boyle and some of these people, and I'm not a biologist, so I haven't seen it myself, but I like I said once before, I am trained to see, CBR, NBC incidents, and this definitely looks like a bioweapon to me. Can it be activated? Remember, I talked about binary systems. In chemical warfare, you can keep a nerve agent separated into its component parts, and they're not lethal. But then when they're mixed on the battlefield, they become lethal. Well, that could be the same thing with this. The 5G enhances it. It very well could be. But they do know that it's already been weaponized, that it was manufactured. Okay, it was manufactured. They can see the insertion points, the chimeric way that it was formed. In other words, several different viruses and virus mechanisms were put into this that don't happen in nature. So I wouldn't totally say that 5G isn't that adds to the power of the virus. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but it's not just 5G that's doing this. No way. No way. Well, thank you, independent thinker. And this is the way we should be. Very nice way to say it. Keep speaking up, Roy. Whether I agree with you or not on any particular topic, I like to hear my perspective. Yeah. And that's the way I am. See, that's not name calling or anything like that. Yeah, people aren't going to see. It's like this 5G thing. Is it the 5G or is it the biological weaponized form of a virus? Well, it could be a binary type of situation too. Yeah, it could be. Maybe that's why. Well, I'm not going to say it's not exploding in the United States. That's being covered up at this point. 5G could be. I'm trying to remember what that's called. Anyway, it's the thing that adds to the weapon. I can't remember the name of it right now, and I apologize for that. Harry Harry Honkanen says historical speculation is relatively useless. We need new solutions, maximum efficiency, and sharing technology. That's a dangerous way to look at things. No, because history really does repeat itself. The circumstances somewhat change. And you've heard the old axiom, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So I disagree with you. However, I do agree that new solutions, mostly in the hearts and minds of men and women, is where the thing has to change. Maximum efficiency, fine. Sharing technology, great, but they've been hiding that from us. I thought Trump was going to release all of this new technological information. He did. One of the good things he did do, one of my daughters used this in a paper in her nursing school, was the right to try some new technologies if you have a terminal illness, that you have a right to try some of these other things, and that the hospitals won't be sued, and that the FDA can't prevent it, and that kind of thing. So that was a good deal. Where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of it? Oh, it's being done in secret. Oh, Space Force. Oh, yeah, Space Force. Okay, all right. Well, maybe. I don't know. Disgustical. Trump survived a head wound. No, sorry. No, I don't think that fits. I don't think that fits. Jack Kennedy, I think that's a good point. That's what I've said. 5G hand in glove with bioweapons for in other words, a binary effect. Yeah, it could be. It could enhancement. That's the word I was trying to think of. An enhanced effect. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. But 5G isn't the sole thing that's operating here, not by a long shot. Like I said, Limbaugh was right. Coronavirus is a common cold type virus, just like rhinitis is. I think I'm saying that right. Anyway, but this particular strain that we're looking at has been changed, and changed by human hands. Yeah, spaced out man will always fail us because he is fallible. God, however, is perfect and faithful. Pray. Yeah. Well, that's why I say there has to be this change in the hearts and minds of men and women. And we got to stop, and you're right, we got to stop looking at men to solve our problems. But then again, we live amongst them, right? So we have to work with them. How you make that total disconnect, I'm honestly not sure. But you don't do it by praising somebody when they don't deserve it. Definitely not. Yeah, Adri, that's true. People die of common cold flu all the time. That's true. That's very true. But this thing does have some other problems. And if you go to see the Patriot Nurse, she'll talk about that. She'll talk about when you get reinfected, it's deadlier. Mike Cernovich did a mathematical study of this as well. And he showed that there could easily be, I think, I might have it wrong, but I think he said that we can see 1 million deaths. He's using the death numbers that we're seeing elsewhere, and he's using that in the United States, what it would do here. Now, as Patriot Nurse says, our hygiene here is pretty good. Our medical care is pretty good. Our nutrition is pretty good. The problem is that there are those who won't follow the really necessary hygiene rules that we should be practicing in our nation. They just won't do that. I mean, look what's happening in San Francisco and in L.A. and in Austin, Texas, where they have these expansive homeless areas with all of the defecation and urination and the needles and the sickness and all that. That's just ripe for a an epidemic. Of course, a pandemic is worldwide, but that's really what is it? WHO said, or was it? Yeah, the WHO says it doesn't have the right to declare it a pandemic. Do you see the way they're playing this thing? And the CDC, I've never trusted. Freeman King, I'm not saying it's not relevant. I think you're talking about the 5G thing. Yeah, I'm not saying it isn't relevant. I guess that's what you're talking about. I'm just saying that it's an enhancement. The disease itself is a bioweapon, absolutely, and it could be part of a binary system, absolutely. Maybe knowing that China was going to, release the 5G network, this thing was planted surreptitiously. Who knows where it came from? They pretty well identified that it was U.S. Okay, apparently it was sold to China back about 5-6 years ago during the Obama administration. Maybe, whatever. Who knows all the details? Like I say, things are not as they appear, right? But it could be that they knew that they would get 5G in, and that 5G was an enhancement and made it worse. It could be. Could be. But it's still an engineered bioweapon. It is not just the 5G. Angler Strong, I think I have to agree with you here, says, Trump knew exactly what he was getting into. We have known Democrats and their insanity and evil. He's known, actually what I should say, he's known Democrats and their insanity and evil all his life. That it's no excuse that he came in thinking that he could just, shake hands with them and get them to go along. Yeah. Like I say, there's some really fishy things going on here. And I'm not encouraged by the direction we're going. Not in the least. Edelson James is asking, where do the Noahide laws play into this? Well, it's a form of control. The Noahide laws were a Talmudic interpretation. They aren't from Torah. The Talmud says that when Noah came out of the ark that, he did some things and made some agreements that are binding on all mankind. No, that's not true. That's a Talmudic way of imposing their control over your life. Now, are they good? Well, some of the Noahide laws are about decent behavior and things like that, but it's who they put in charge that's the real issue. Okay, that's the real issue. Yeah, and I would agree with this. Why is our, like Trump and Bush and all these different people so willing to go along with the Noahide laws and not the biblical Torah? And more importantly, why or just as Jesus said, or as Hillel, who was a rabbi who lived just prior to Jesus, it may have been contemporary, but they were separated by a number of years, although there's a question of where Jesus was actually born. But Hillel said, and I've talked about this before, a student stood on one leg and said, Rabbi, can you tell me the whole law why I stand here on one leg? And Hillel said, sure, do not that which you hate to your neighbor. Jesus had another way of saying it. He says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the whole of the law, right? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and strength, and thy neighbor as thyself. Upon these two are all the law and the prophets. Exactly. What happened with Talmudic law, the Noahide laws? What happened with Sharia? Legalese, little interpretations, little stakes they set up, so that the man in general can be in control of his neighbor. That's what the problem is. Himadri, I'm gonna say this one more time, and these are probably comments that you all have been making here prior to this. You're saying flu deaths are about 70,000 a year, and the COVID-19 are less than 3,000 so far. But we're just getting started. The main thing is look what it's doing to the supply lines. Do you understand what that's going to do? Mike Cernovich talked about, he has a friend who is in a selling business and he can't get his product from China anymore and he's going to have to shut down. I have friends that are in the same boat. You're going to be hit by this thing whether it's real or not, because they're making it so that the supply lines are going to be destroyed. Do you understand why you need to prepare? Stop making excuses that it's not as bad as you think it is. It's going to be worse than you think it is. Even with the situation with the SARS back, a decade ago, and all of those things, the H1N1 and all those the bird viruses and things, they didn't attack the supply lines. They didn't cause this problem in the supply lines that we're seeing right now. Didn't happen. Not at this level. And actually, the problem with the shipping containers and the shipping business was starting to slow down last year, before all this started. Now, the Bible talks about Babylon the Great has fallen, that the merchants of the earth will lament that Babylon the Great has fallen. Yeah, that's going to happen. But as many people have pointed out, back when the Depression hit in the 30s, most all Americans had gardens, or they were farmers, or they knew how to survive, and it still took out millions of people starving to death. Hundreds of thousands at least. We're not there anymore. This is going to be serious, and you better stop playing games with it. You better take charge of your life and know what you're going to do and not depend on anybody else or anything that you hear. What's the name of this video? Nothing is as it appears. Even that interpretation. I've had a lot of people that say, "Oh, Roy, you're so negative. You're always talking about the negative stuff. Why don't you talk about the positive stuff?" Well, this is a good example. You talk about the positive stuff, and what happens? The people get complacent. And Isaiah talks about it. The people will say, "Teach unto us things that are easy to understand. Prophesy unto us lies and deception." We want to feel good. Well, where does that get us? That might help your 10 or 15-year-old when they're learning a new skill to encourage them. But if you don't call them out when they do something wrong, or tell them the truth about what their actions are going to do to them, how is that beneficial? How is that efficacious in any way, shape, or form? That's the progressive idea, right? We no longer have awards, trophies for the best player on a team. No, everybody gets a trophy because we don't want anybody to be left out. That's the wrong way to go about it, and that's what this attitude is. Okay? Just so you know, that's how I look at it. I'm not going to address the death issue again on the coronavirus anymore, because you're missing the point. Okay? I don't care if nobody dies from it. Look what it's doing to the supply lines. You better have food, water, medical. If you have prescriptions, India's not going to be able to get this thing going fast enough to take up the slack, if that's the plan. Okay, I've been going for an hour and 3 minutes. You guys are probably tired of hearing me talking. I knew this was going to be a little different this morning. I was thinking about doing the whole dissertation on the Hebrew thing and all of that. And I just can't. I just can't, because inevitably, I just feel like it's. I think I've given you really the nuts and bolts of it anyway. So again, go back and look at what I said here today about my concerns about why they called that Trump Heights, and my explanation of Hezekiah and Josiah. It doesn't matter if any of that's true. You don't understand. They use some letters in Trump's name that are concerning, and the place that they put it. Whether you believe that stuff or not doesn't matter. It's what are they doing? What are they doing? Frankly, and I think an Orthodox Jew, not necessarily the Lubavitchers, which apparently Trump's son-in-law and daughter are in. That's the Chabad Lubavitchers, who thought that Rabbi Schneerson was the Messiah. Okay, manifestly not true. But look, if in fact, and I've talked about Trump's hair before, if in fact he's a closet Lubavitcher, Chabadist, okay, if he is, I'm not saying it, but there are some things that make me believe so. Is he really not a drinker because he's just concerned about health? It's because his brother died from alcoholism. Is it that, or is he a Rechabite? And if you don't know what that is, that's where the Nazarites came from. Again, I know you're not understanding. You think I'm just talking about religious things. I'm talking about history. So what is it that Trump is really about? This is concerning, and that's why I wanted to bring it up and talk about it. Whoever decided to spell his name like that, it means something. And my gut feeling is it's not a good thing. So I'm done for the day. Thanks for everybody coming. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Get ready. Prep, pray, and stay out of the way. Defend yourselves, as I've said, on and on and on. But I don't see this ending well. I don't. I don't think that we're going to get through this. We lose more of our rights every day. The swamp gets bigger. Our debt gets bigger. We're spending more money now that we don't have. And what does that do? It enslaves us. I don't see things getting better. We talk about the stock market, that's somehow the indication of how good the economy is. No, that's how good it is for the rich people when they're playing around with things. Look in your towns and see what businesses are closing. Even in some of the cities in Utah, Wyoming, that's another thing. But even in Utah, we're seeing businesses close, big businesses close. Now, that's not always a bad thing. And this argument about the coronavirus is very similar. Oh, this happens all the time. Businesses close all the time. Not at the intensity and the frequency that we're seeing now. No. So we've got a problem. And it's a train coming down the tracks, and nobody's really serious on fixing it. They want to give you feel-good things that you can send, gifts of congratulations to each other. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So thanks for coming, everybody. I'll see you next time, whenever that is. You know how that is. I could pop in on a moment's notice if something big occurs. No arrests. Only people that are on Trump's supporters or had anything to do with exercising their First, Second, and Fourth Amendments. Those are the people that are being arrested. I could sit here and I could talk about all the things that are coming out now about SSA-1, all this stuff with, the different FBI agents and what they were up to. The top dogs are throwing the lower dogs under the bus. Nobody's being held accountable. Oh, Durham and Barr are going to come through in spring or summer. I'll believe it when I see it. Till next time, out here.